Welcome back to the Construction Dorkcast. We kicked this new year off with two of our very good friends, Mike Zivanovic and Stephan Schnell, talking about what else but tech in the trades. These two pioneers tell us about how they got started in growing tech training in the respective halls and get very passionate on their soapboxes about how to attack the labor shortage and get young people interested in construction. Thanks again for listening, and tune in 2 weeks for our next episode.
You got it. Well, we are live on that note. So thanks for everybody for being patient and waiting for us to be a couple minutes late. You know how the dorks are. We got to start our new year a little behind schedule, which I'm sure most of you are starting 2021 thinking it's not really where I thought it was going to be, right? So, but hey, this is going to be a fantastic episode. I'm really excited. I'm actually not going to be at the controls tonight, so I am just doing the introduction. So welcome to the first Construction Dorkcast of 2021. Right. It's a fair trade. We're going to be joined today by Stephan Schnell and Mike Zivanovic, and I am freaking excited. These are two gentlemen that if you have not listened in, put your seatbelts on, strap on your listening caps, whatever it is, get ready. This is going to be a fun ride. From here, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Marsh. Jonathan, take it away.
Hey, I'm going to start out by introducing my drink. And today I was under the weather, people. I was feeling bad. So I'm not going with straight whiskey because while that's good for you and will make you a healthy person, it's a little much for me today. So I'm doing a hot toddy. And I'm doing it with a fistful of bourbon. Have you guys tried this?
I haven't tried that one yet.
So there's a lot of bourbons that are blends. This thing's beautiful. It's inexpensive. And honestly, it's one of the better bourbons that I've had in a long time. So with that, I am going to push it over to Mr. Voss to introduce himself and what he is drinking today.
Right, well, I went with the straight bourbon route. This is Barnstormer's 40 Winks. First time I've ever had this. It's a double-barreled whiskey. It says it's from Rockford, Illinois, which is just right around the corner for me. So that's why I grabbed it and decided to try it out. And it's actually pretty darn good. I will probably stop drinking it straight shortly and go to more of a highball route to try to hydrate a little bit so I don't end up ruining the rest of my evening.
Right. Where's that from?
Well, the bottle says from Rockford, Illinois, but I'm trying to look here if it talks about where it's distilled.
It's not a Flaviar delivery, is it?
No. It actually says it's bottled in Rockford, Illinois. I saw the Rockford on the label and I didn't dig deeper, but Rockford is just, for those of you out in listener land, Rockford is just about 30 minutes east of here from between where I live and on the way to Chicago. It's just, what do they call it? It's the sock monkey and screw capital of the world at one point in time.
All right. Home of the Ice Hogs.
Home of the Ice Hogs. That's right. Yeah.
There you go. What are you up to today, Trent?
All right, man. I'm coming to you with a Woodford Rye, keeping it simple.
I almost grabbed that one. It was right next to this on the shelf, and I'm like, ooh, that looks good too.
So pretty simple, but always kind of
now you drink that straight?
Yeah. I've got it right here, just in my little world traveler glass.
Nice.
Now I know, Stephan, it is 2 p.m. So you might not have anything today, but oh, you do.
As my boy Bobby Boucher would say, this is a good H2O.
It's high quality
H2O. So I got a few more hours worth of work to do, then I'll go back home and open up a nice beer.
Well, Stephan, also they know everything about us. Could you take just a couple minutes to introduce yourself and kind of what you're doing right now and what you're up to?
Yeah. So my name is Stephan Schnell, based out of the Bay Area, Northern California. I'm currently the apprenticeship director for a plumbing and pipe fitting local in San Mateo County. So we serve all the entire county plus the Bay Area, and for all things HVAC, pipe fitting, and plumbing. Big tech guy for construction. Spent 13 years in tech, 20 years in in plumbing, it's in pipe fitting, and big love and passion for anything construction technology, from an app to hardware. So yeah, spent, just like the rest of you guys, spent quite a bit of time fidgeting and breaking it and doing it right, doing it wrong, and everything in between.
Right on. In Mikey, I know that in looking at the audience that plenty of these people know you, but maybe give us a little background on what you're up to now, because you've had some changes, and sort of what your focus is, and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'll start off with my drink, and I have
Right
a
on.
nice beer here from Colorado, so Colorado native amber.
Nice.
And I'm a Chicago guy, as you know, but first I want to say, hey, thanks for letting us be a part of this, and thanks for letting Stephan and I be here. We love you guys, and a lot of respect for this crew here. So it's really good to kick off the new year with you. And I'm out of Chicago, 10-year, born and raised in Chicago, but been a UA member for about United Association member about 10 years now. Spent 5 years as the technology manager with the Chicago Pipe Fitters. And most recently, I've joined the team here at GTP Services, and working with Todd here. I'm in Denver at the moment at our home office, so that's why Q's in the Colorado native beer, taking a little bit of what they have to offer. But yeah, I've made the transition over to GTP to really work with contractors and training centers around the country to help do my part to push technology in what we do. We all have a passion for it, and I wanted to expand on that passion.
Right on. Jeff, do you have anything to introduce tonight? You look fresh in from skiing.
Well, I'm going to admit that I'm actually with Stephan. I've got not the H2O. I need a little bit more leaded. So this is just a good old coffee, because yours truly decided to take advantage of a little bit of that fresh air this morning and get what we like to call here in the ski town an attitude adjustment. So I have some work that's going to need to be done a little later on. But, because we're always looking for Flaviar, I'm going to be drinking a Wyoming whiskey brought to you by Flaviar. A little bit later
Flaviar.
on the rocks. And just to make sure, Flaviar. If you haven't tried it, let us know, because you can get one of our links and, sign up anytime you want. It's a great service. But from that, I'm just absolutely excited, to have Mike and Stephan. For myself, Jonathan, this process of learning construction technology has all been about the people I've met. And obviously you three other dorks have been a huge source of information for me. But I can honestly say I have called Mike and Stephan more LinkedIn message when I have real questions that, you might feel like you'd look a little stupid asking this either out loud, or it might even be considered trolling or something, is the one that Stephan and I had. And I'm always amazed at the answers I get back. So I'm really looking forward to sitting back and learning. So I'm asking some of those questions again here today. And thanks, guys, for joining us for this year. It's a great way to start it off.
Yeah.
Right on. And I'd like to kind of dive in. Before we started the show, we were talking a little bit about sort of the beginnings of technology in the different trade schools that you guys were associated with. And I see Susan's actually watching in attendance, and she was talking to me about the IBW a bit. Can you tell me, Stephan, like when you first, and you said it was 10 years ago or more when you started to push this, can you give me a flavor for like what was the attitude towards technology a decade ago in the Bay Area, amongst the union,
Yeah. It wasn't well adopted. So we started teaching Autodesk products like in the mid to late 90s, but it was, a couple one-offs, people were doing it, and we weren't really getting the penetration into the office for, skilled trades people in the office till, several years later. And I'll answer the question by telling you a quick story. One of the bigger contractors in the area, he does about 100 million a year, once told me in 2005 that he will never, ever, ever hire a union person to work in the office for drafting. And then fast forward 10 years later, he asked me out to meet him at lunch, and he called Chris Ashlinger, our main trainer, and said, "Hey, I want all union drafters." So less than 10 years later, he went full circle, and I asked him why, and he said, well, I just want an even playing field with all the contractors. And he saw the value of it. So I don't measure progress in days or months. It's, years, and same thing with, our leadership wanted to protect the work that we're good at. And then slowly we started training on work that we were a little bit uncomfortable with, but knew that there was a need for it. And, it takes a while.
Yeah. How about down in Chicago, Mike? What was it like when you first started pushing technology in Chicago? And Stephan, did you have his back?
I ride Mike's coattails.
Let me just set the record straight here that when I had any instinct to launch this program in Chicago that I did, Stephan was on the phone with me multiple days a week, walking me through the process and how not to fail and how to let me fail so that I could learn my own lessons. So don't listen to anything he says about that, because he's been a mentor of mine since the very beginning. So 5 years ago, when we started this technology program in Chicago and they really didn't have one, I got the team of guys together that many of you know them: Casey Becker, Jason Ashburn, Justin Gage, Greg Cohen. These all names are all familiar to you now. They're all detailers now in their positions. We started this program, and you mentioned Susan's on, and we've spoken a lot with Susan Bauer on the electrician side, and I love her. She's got a lot of passion, and when we first started, we got everything ready, and I'll shorten up the story. We got everything ready, and we had our first class ready to go, and not one person showed up, and I ate all the donuts that night for the class. So, and nobody showed up, and we knew that we failed. And then, we thought we failed. And then the next class, we started it again, and nobody showed up. And like Stephan said, you can't, at that point, you come to a fork in the road where either we stop or we just keep, get knocked down and get back up. And fast forward 5 years, and we have teaching Revit 180-hour program 4 nights a week with 18 students in each class, and there's a waiting list of students to get in that class. So if you're going to measure your success by 1 or 2 failures, then I haven't met many successful people that haven't failed in life. So that was it, John. Same thing as Stephan, same thing as Pat, same thing as Ramirez, Eric Lambrecht, John Russell, all these guys across the country and the UA who bleed technology and push it. They've all failed multiple times, but you got to get back up.
Absolutely. I have another question that's sort of along the same lines. One of the things that I noted, and this really comes off of what you said, Stephan, with the people not wanting to have union staff in their VDC department and then making an about face. And everybody that I have met that is actually has successful BIM has either made that about face or has at least gone halfway down that road. And there are so many people I know that are great plumbers that became insanely good VDC people. When you have those classes that you're giving now, are you seeing more of the younger people coming in or the older people wanting to get retrained in the technology? Who's lining up on your waiting list, Mike, to get at that technology?
Steph, you want me on that one? You want me to take that, or?
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I'm seeing is that it's great. So we have apprentices that are aggressively taking our classes to learn this because they love technology. But not more importantly, but equally as important, we have 15 and 20-year members, brothers and sisters, who have almost perfected what they do in the trades. But then what they want to do is they want to learn a new skill set, and they want to stay relevant, and they see the technology that companies out there are investing in, and they want to be a part of that conversation, and they're taking these classes. So these people, just so you know, and this goes with Stephan too, they're working all day. They're working 8, 10, 12-hour days, and they're coming into these classrooms at night, often on their own time, unpaid, to take these 180-hour courses because they want to progress themselves and continue to make themselves marketable. So Jonathan, the spectrum's all over the place, from 18-year-old first-year apprentices to members that are 2 years away from retirement are taking our classes.
Right on. Same thing down in the Bay Area, Stephan?
Yeah. I would say now when we first started, it was the guy getting towards the end of his retirement that maybe tinker with the computers that, hey, you know what, I'll give this a shot. And then now it seems like the people who just graduated the late 20s, early 30s are getting involved. But what I'm seeing, because of the amount of hours that you used to, well, if you take the amount of job hours there are allotted for a project, it used to be just a couple percent were allocated for detailing, and now it's growing from 3% all the way up to 15% in some cases. So we're needed to fill those seats up, and I saw the need to start recruiting with the tech in mind, and in going to college fairs and high school fairs and saying, hey, if you like building and you're a techie, check out what we got over here, and this could be a path for you. So I anticipate younger people getting into these roles, but the key the silver bullet is the construction and trade experience that they'll get through the 5-year apprenticeship. So it's kind of like all over the place, you know, for that type of person that is the best candidate.
Yeah, right on. Travis?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hop in. So this is a conversation that Mike and I have had a couple of times, in also with his boss Todd there at GTP. I imagine, Mike, you talked, often about how important it is, and you kind of touched on a little bit that you've got these union members that are going out and working for all these contractors, and you get in certain markets where they're very tech focused. So, I mean, I imagine that was one of your selling points, is we need to train our members to go out and work for these people, because I think that you're probably finding you're using your traditional tried and true methods. There's nothing wrong with them. They do really well, but then they would go to a contractor and they would have a Tiger Stop, or they would be running with BIM or a total station or something like that. So, I mean, was it a mixture of working with those contractors, or just kind of watching what the contractors were doing and figuring out what you needed to bring into your training program? Is that what kind of got things going? And Stephan, I would probably say it's probably the same for you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Travis. So, in order for us to, and speaking from the, and this is my opinion from the UAN, we always want to stay in line with what our contractor partners are doing. So, and that's market to market, right? So, Travis, you're obviously Chicago based, so I can use you as a reference, but there's plenty of other contractors, as we know, in Chicago who are, well ahead of the curve on technology like you are. And there's some that are still, doing their due diligence to catch up. What we do in the training environment is we look at what contractors like yourselves are using, right? You're using Tiger Stops, you're using technology, you're investing in Stratus and all these other technologies. We want to mimic that: robotic total stations, Faro laser scanners, whatever the technology is. What we see our contractors using, that's what we're going to train our apprentices on. Then we take a more of a global look at what the national industry is doing. And then we'll also pick parts from there, so that maybe if something's not in our market, we can pull from other markets because we anticipate it maybe leaking into our market. So when it comes to how we train technology and what we choose, we're definitely very keen on what's going on around us, because let's be realistic. If we know Chicago's for example, a Trimble heavy market for robotic total station, right? We see a lot of Trimble units. Well, that was one of the first manufacturers we brought into training. We brought other robotic total station companies in our training center, but again, that's what a lot of our contractors were using out of the box. So hey, let's train on that, right? So that's where that kind of makes sense. Steph, I think you could probably touch on that too. I'm assuming that some of listen, Steph's in Silicon Valley. He's in the Bay Area. They've adapted technology before we kind of did in the Midwest with Chicago. So some of the technology he's probably using out there, we haven't seen in Chicago yet. So there is that overlap. Steph, am I right there? I mean, would you agree with me?
Yeah, there's a lot of good points there. What came to mind when you guys were talking was that the genesis of all this was the buildings and building the buildings and the compressed construction schedules and the focus on safety. Like, for instance, we used to have 10 days to perform a task. Now we have 2 days on a deck, and that would force us to use the total station, use the Trimble unit, like it or not. That's how you're going to get the job. And that would start the process, and you fail and you suck at it, and then eventually you do it on every job, which is status quo. And then safety wise, it was, well, how do we increase safety? And it was moving construction to a controlled environment like the shop, right? And so that would force you to utilize, leverage your model and actually start modeling what you're going to build rather than just throwing something out there to appease the contractors. And then we see that as, right, if our members are doing that and that's what it looks like at a job site, we have a responsibility to train on that, right? It wasn't just about how we did it, in the 60s and 50s and so on.
Yeah, guys, I had a question, but I'm going to change my question to continue this conversation a little bit because I think there's more to talk about. But, I like, Stephan, what you said about, you were training the members and you're achieving some things on the job site, like a safer job site, because now we're building in areas that are more controlled and not a lot of trade stacking. But what do you guys, have you seen this too, though? I think one of the big benefits, in my opinion, and I'd like to hear what you guys think, is training these guys for that work, because with the labor shortage that we're seeing, these building models and this fabrication is the only way we can hold the market. Because putting that guy in the office and doing it, in my firm belief, takes the place of 3 guys in the field. Or, I'm sure somebody has the multiplier, but with that labor shortage, I think it's the only way that we can stay relevant. And I kind of wanted your thoughts on that. So, Stephan, if you wanted to start.
I do think there's a labor shortage. I mean, there's proof of that all over the place that you can find. It's another thing is just to get people interested in construction, right? I think they said, I'll throw California out there, just what I know. I think we have 90,000 registered apprentices. 80% of that is in construction. The goal is to get, I think by 2028, 500,000 registered apprentices in California. So there's definitely a labor shortage. There's definitely a recruitment shortage, and there's a lot of people retiring. I think I heard for every 3 people retiring, 1 person's coming in, and that really resonates with me.
That's a good point. So I guess what you're trying to say is, there's a scope of work that has to be accomplished for that contractor. And if we can't recruit younger people to be the wrench turners, we can recruit them to do the computer work. And that does accomplish scope. I mean, that is part of the job. So that's interesting. Yep. Mike, I'll give you an opportunity too. So.
Yeah, I just think that, just from my point of view, I'm like the metaphysical guy. Like, I don't know. I like to get all warm and fuzzy about these things. And Stephan's like the level-headed straight guy. That's what I like about him. But Trent, listen, man, I see that. And now in my position here, I'm speaking to more contractors in the last 100 days than I've ever spoken to. And unfortunately, I get to see what's going on around the country. And I'm really getting starting to get a good pulse on what our contractors are doing. And they are doing everything they can to bring fabrication into the fab shop. And Trent and Travis, you guys both know that, being with contractors who are both embodying that and running with that, right? So the members in the field are more adapted to technology. It's something they're comfortable with, and it's something they want to use. They are all about, productivity and efficiency and looking at ways that they can improve that because they want to show value to the company. And the tools that you are investing in, they are readily available and willing to learn how to use those tools. As I said, we have 20-year members that are coming into our Revit classes to learn that software because they want to stay relevant in their trade and in their profession. And any tool you guys introduce, whether it's a Tiger Stop, a plasma cutter, Stratus, any other piece of technology, they want to take that and learn it so they can stay relevant and show value to your company. That's all it is at the end of the day. And I'm a firm believer in that. Great question.
Jeff, I think you were.
Yeah. So I have one, and it wraps around this. We continually talk about a labor shortage, and I'm going to bring back, Stephan, that thing that I said about, earlier on in the startup of, not wanting to feel like a troll, but you had actually posted a picture on LinkedIn, and this was a while ago. So if you don't remember, I'll bring it back to you, but of a line outside, for your next apprenticeship. And it was turning away more people than we were really accepting. And I had this question like, well, wait a minute, we talk about a labor shortage and then we're turning people away. What the heck's going on? And like I said, I didn't want to be a troll, but you had a great answer. So I'm going to kick it to you to answer back. And then, Mike, while he's answering, I want you to think about like, what can we do as an industry to solve those particular problems?
Great question. I'm ready for this.
So Jeff, I think I remember the answer, but I'm not positive. But we accept roughly 50 to 60 people a year into our apprenticeship program. We're not a big apprenticeship program like Mike's old program in Chicago, but we have a pretty healthy washout rate. So about 50% of the people don't pass the entrance exam, right? And then that's our first layer. The next layer is an interview, because not everyone understands the commitment that it takes. It's a 5-year commitment. It's 8,000 hours of on-the-job training. It's 1,000 plus hours of night school. And and if you're 18, you may not be ready for that, right? Or if you're coming from another career into this, it may not be for you. So we want to make sure we have the right people, because we invest our paperwork says we invest about $100,000 into each apprentice. So it's very important to us that we have the right apprentice. Is that what I said, Jeff? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, actually, you hit the nail on the head that there's more to. It's interesting because since I've asked you that, and it's now, gosh, it's quite a few years since I asked you that question. I've really begun to understand. Like, I think we could use doing a little bit more of the care that you guys are taking with, where other 18-year-olds might be going and how much other people might be investing, because that's really about what the unions are investing in them, not necessarily their parents. And so, the care in which you guys can bring people in. But then you had also talked about the need for scaling the ability for us to do that, which requires another set of investment. So, Mike, I'd be really interested to get your take on it.
So, and I just want to be clear. So, because I'm very opinionated and very passionate about how to grow our unions and how to grow the labor shortage. Is that the question you're asking me? If it's not, refine the question, because I'm about to go off a deep one here.
Oh, no, go off the deep one. But
Dive in, man.
Dive in. But it was really, at the time, what I didn't understand and what Stephan taught me was more about the process of what it takes to become an apprentice, and that there's more to just showing up in line on a given day, punching your ticket, and in you go. That there was more to it, but that also there was more need for investment and scale in the capabilities of the unions by the contractors and by others to fulfill the need for all those different folks. So it was, and I expect to tee you up to, if we got you on this show and you didn't do that, I'd be disappointed, Mike. So I'm
gonna just take my 5 minutes with the microphone here and just say what I have to say. But here's I didn't grow up with a union card in my pocket, and I one day was just decided to go apply for the union pipe fitters, and I showed up, and there were, I think that year, 3,000 people that applied to get in, and they took 150 people into that program that year. So because there's a labor shortage, it's not due to the people that want to get into the trades. It's logistically how many they can take in their training centers and train them. So that's one whole thing. But I thank God I did pretty well and I got in. And then here's what I realized when I got in. This is what I tell every first year apprentice that came to our school. And this is what I would tell anybody in any industry that I meet them. And you can take the best sporting team that you know of. To me, it's the Chicago Cubs. There's nobody better than the Chicago Cubs. Or we can take the best school out there. And I was not really good at school. So I'll just argue Harvard just for sake of argument. But I tell anybody I meet that's starting anything new in life, if you get drafted by the Chicago Cubs, you've worked your entire life to get into the Chicago Cubs, and you get on the team and day one of spring training, you don't do anything, or after the first week or first month, they're going to bounce you. If you get into Harvard in that first semester, you don't do nothing, they're going to kick you out. So by you working your entire life to get into Harvard or onto the Cubs, all that's done is afford you the ability to show them how good you are. That's it. So when you get in there, that's when the work starts, right? We have an amazing amount of people that apply. Like Stephan said, we're large in Chicago, 10,000 pipe fitters, 35,000 apprentices, over 40,000 apprentices across this country. Here's the two things we need to start doing. A, we need to start marketing that it's more than pulling on wrenches. I have an affinity and I love and I respect more than anything the brothers and sisters that go out there in any condition and they build this country with their whole entire heart. There's nothing more satisfying to that, and I have chills even thinking about it or even saying it. Our schooling systems, our counselors, our parents out there, they have to understand that there is more to what we do than a piece of paper that says you have a degree and you're certified to do this. There's nothing wrong with putting on a pair of overalls or bibs or a denim shirt and going to build this country and being proud of it when you're done with it because you're an American. And I know I'm going off the deep end right now because it's something I am extremely passionate about. And I'm passionate about going around the country to these fab shops and seeing people that want to do better and seeing these contractors that are investing in technology and seeing the journeymen out there that are taking an apprentice and showing them what to do. We need to do a better job at showing them that there are more things to do out there than welding and pulling on wrenches. Show them they can estimate, show them that they can be a project manager one day, show them that they can be a technology manager one day, show them that they can do what Stephan or I have done in our careers because somebody mentored us. It's possible out there. All you have to do is expose them to it.
There's three of us that proved it right here. Right on the road.
I mean, like, listen, don't tell me there's a labor shortage because I don't want to hear it. Logistically, yeah, maybe we have trouble training as many people out there because Stephan said there's an attrition rate. More people are retiring than more people are coming in. That's something we understand. And until we build more schools, we're going to have to figure that out. But you know what? Figure out how we can maximize what we have. Figure out how we can be more proficient and productive and efficient at what we do out there. That let's worry about that head on, and then let's worry about how we can build more schools and figure out this 800,000 labor shortage problems, right? And Jeff, I'm sorry if that's not the answer you're looking for, brother, but that is something that I think about every single day.
But I'll sprinkle it. Go ahead, Trent.
I was just going to say, to clarify, the labor shortage, that's from a contractor speak, right? And I'm in 100% agreement with Mike. I think I don't want to confuse the fact that we're saying the same thing, but the labor shortage is there, but Mike's just saying it doesn't exist for the reasons that people believe it does. Yeah.
And I'll piggyback with more of a comment, just saying that, I mean, that's why we focus so heavily on technology. And that's why I'm glad to see the trades that are pushing it as well, because we're not trying to take away jobs. We're trying to augment the people that we have already.
Of course, definitely.
No, and that's exactly why I asked the question of Stephan when I did, because I didn't understand it, and it's what I've understood. But the other interesting part, Mike, that you just went into on the passionately and correctly is just, I mean, the fact that you get to build this world, like I, as a technologist in the industry, feel like I've had a hand in helping to build some of the things that are going up around the country.
Hell yeah.
And I feel differently about it. And, but I also had coming from outside this business and into this business, had a different view of those people. And I learned very, very quickly, we do have a stigma that we have to remove because, man, I am in awe all the time of those people that go out, that are pipe fitters, that are doing this labor, that are turning those wrenches. Like, I can make a computer dance, but I can't turn a dang wrench. Anything I build, they condemn. I mean, Jeff, I have Lego buildings that are falling over. So,
but we make that pipe fitter not just a 1.0 pipe fitter. We make him a 1.3 or a 1.4.
Hey, let me tell you guys something from being on both sides of the spectrum. Those guys, those brothers and sisters out there that are building it, they look up to you too. They see, and I'm not just saying this to fluff anybody here. We drive by as pipe fitters, we drive by a building and we say, I built that. And there's nothing more prouder, but you do the same thing when you drive by a building and say, I coordinated that building, or I was part of the technology on that building. And the people in the field that see you come out with are us now that I'm in that technology space, and they see all these tools we're using and you're giving them the ability to do their job better with more information. They envy that. And they look at you as the same way as them. We're all in here together. We're pulling on the same rope and we want to get this job done. And we all have a different part of the rope we're pulling on. We're all different pieces of the pie, but we're doing it together. And that's what it's all about, right, Trent? I mean, you guys, that's a great point.
It's
we're all doing it together, right?
100%. Just like we always said in the Army, like the whole beans, beds, bullets things, man. It's like, you might be the guy who's out there with the bullets, but without the beans in the bed, you're nothing. So
that's a great point. Great point. I love it.
Susan asked a great question, and it kind of diverges a little bit, but it's a really good question. I was wondering it the last time I was talking to people. When you're training people and they're sort of getting certified and this and that, how does the contractor get a hold of that 1.3 contractor, those people that are a little bit better trained, that have been through your programs? What are they doing from a call line or a job line standpoint to say, hey, I need guys, and I need, them trained in Bluebeam, or I need a Tremble guy, which would probably, I got to say, like, I think it was 4 years ago, I went out to the Bay Area and I met all these guys that could run Tremble that were union. And I'm like, why are you not in Pennsylvania where I can use you? Because I need like 8 of you right now. We can make a lot of money,
Right.
but how do they get a hold of them? How do they get a hold of that staff that, like you said, this is your high end staff too, because they've taken extra time out of their personal life and said, I'm going to dig in and make something of this. But
for me, there's 2 ways. The first way is you just train them. And then what I've found is I'll train a class of 20 how to use the total station, and then circle back with them in 6 months, and you find out 8 of the 20 are actually using it on their job sites. Right. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, these guys are 2nd-year apprentices.
What more proof do you need? Yeah.
Right. And then, or you teach them just a simple Bluebeam tool, a 3-hour class on Bluebeam, and all of a sudden they're the Bluebeam guy on the project, or they're the Navis person on the project. And, or the second way is I just made a bunch of not phony certification, but certifications more for the contractors. I actually certify that they went through a Revit 1 class or a Total Station class, and then they can promote that, and they can share that with our person who dispatches out people to contractors, who has the ear on the train track of what's needed for what projects, and he can offer up that type of person to those.
Great
projects.
idea.
That's great.
But yeah, I think that's what Susan was asking is there a way for, someone in the hall to have, sort of certifications or some sort of ranking that I have I'm Bluebeam certified, I'm Bluebeam level 1, Bluebeam level 2. And then that the contractors on the other side know they can actually, when calling up the hall, ask for those things.
Yeah. So I recently had a good conversation with another apprenticeship director about stackable certs. And I used to teach classes that were 100 hours long, and we went over 8 different things. And then I found out, all right, the best way to do for me that I found was just bite-sized classes. So many hours on this, so many hours on that. And each time give them a cert that can stack up to whatever you want to call it, and then have it acknowledged by different institutions. Like right now I'm working with Stanford. We're working with our junior college to get that recognized by them. So,
and sorry, Steph, one thing we did in Chicago as people finish our 180-hour program for Revit, we tell them, hey, do you have a LinkedIn profile? Are you putting, your ability to detail in Revit on LinkedIn? And well, why is that? Well, a lot of contractors are looking for detailers, and maybe they don't have a UA member yet in the seat, but apply for it and show them, make a good profile and put your credentials up there. And if they respond back to you and say, well, we don't have UA members in the seats here, well, why not? Why don't you, let me come in for a conversation and show you some of my abilities in Revit and have that conversation. And next thing you know, it might be an opportunity. So don't be afraid to, you put the time in for these classes, fly your flag, put it up there that you're a Revit champion and you're willing to learn. And as you might be a plumber, pipe fitter, sprinkler fitter, whatever it is, any trade, but you're interested in sitting in that seat and helping design these buildings,
We don't plug a lot of things on here, but I'm going to plug our own episode back with Jim Knight on doing just that. So if you haven't listened to that one, guys, go back and listen, because you do have to be your own advocate too.
Absolutely.
Part of this brand, Mike, your brand is you. It's authentically you, but you've put time into it. Stephan, you as well. Each one of us here. I mean, the 4 of us, it's the dorks. We wouldn't be the dorks if we hadn't put in that effort. And I know there's probably a few that hopefully this gets to at some point where you are worth your own brand. None of us were anything, and none of us are really that special. I love all you guys, but we're really not that special.
Come on.
It's a matter of believing in yourself that you can rise up and that you're worth it. So put it out there. And I would hope too, if any of the contractors are listening, start asking those questions. One way to get the hall to start doing things a little different is if you're asking for something different, they might react a little differently.
Yeah.
So we're always a fan of pushing from both sides. We want to push
Oh,
up
yeah.
to the hall, and we want to push from the contractor side so that, again, it's everybody pulling that rope in the same direction, Mike.
For sure.
People don't know you want something unless you let them know. You have to. You got to let them know that, hey, I have an interest in doing this with the company. Well, if they don't know that, then how would they know to find you when they need somebody for that? So that's really important to do that. 100%.
And guys, I have to just say, us mechanical contractors have some of the best Revit users, I think, on the planet. I mean, I would, Mike and Stephan, you probably know Derek Westfall works with me. And I mean, I would put his Revit abilities up against any architect, any engineer, it's crazy,
Yeah, because Derek, I know Derek personally. Derek's been in mechanical rooms. He's built them. Derek's been on job sites. He's built them. He's had the tools in his hand, and he knows what it takes to design a room properly where it's going to produce the least amount of
But he knows the
RFIs.
software. He knows just as good as those guys.
So that's what I'm saying. You take their ability to work in that environment, and now they know the authoring software behind it. Like, how dangerous is that? I mean, that's amazing to see that. And Derek, you're right, is that man's at the top of the
He'll tell you he
chart there
sucks, but
Yeah, well, that's okay.
We all have imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
Sal
right.
that's the Sal D'Ambrosia method. I think
Yep.
this
hold my beer. I'm coming in. Right?
two episodes in a row. It's one thing. You can't teach somebody 15 years of construction experience, but you can certainly teach them where to click in Revit and how to figure out how to do it. And they're going to kick you out of the chair a lot faster than the other way around. So it's a cool method. So, take it back to you guys. If we don't have a lot of folks probably listening in their 17, 16 years old thinking, what am I going to do when I turn 18 right now? But we do have a lot of us who are parents and who are thinking about what are my kids going to do. And I know I've focused on changing not only that my son can do it, but that I have a daughter, and that my daughter can enter into this trade and can be a productive part of it. And that, technology can be a part of it too. So, Stephan, as you're thinking about a parent listening in, what are the things that you would do to sell them that this is a career for them, and that they should invest in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start off by saying I think it's 10% of high school freshmen actually get a 4-year degree. So it's pretty bad odds if you're just thinking your kid's going to do that.
Wow.
I would say that it's hard because I talked to a lot of high school juniors and seniors, and their path is already defined. So I would say circle back with them 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, try to understand what they're passionate about and look at opportunities around there. I mean, I would love to talk to some young women about the opportunities in construction and the opportunities to be business owners and just the skill sets that they have that men don't have to be successful in the trades. I mean, some of the best people I work with have been women in construction, just badasses. And it's up and down the ladder, in the field, in the office. So there's room for everybody. There's room for young people. There's room for every person, every nationality, rich, poor, to be successful in construction. And construction doesn't care about anything else but the bottom line. So I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question the way you wanted to. But...
No, you made a good thought. And Mike, I'm going to kick this over to you here too. But something I've noticed too is that, STEM has taken off, science, technology, engineering, and math. And, they've thrown in the A there, and some people get mad when you say STEAM, but I kind of like the STEAM because if it wasn't for the A, we'd have a whole bunch of boxy looking same darn thing of everything. So the A makes
I have to laugh though. Isn't STEAM just school? Isn't that what school was when we were in school?
So that's always the argument.
Right.
That's always the argument. But
do middle schools have a shop class anymore? I don't know.
No,
yeah,
not many.
No,
we still have a
but
few out in the middle of nowhere here where I am, but it's very rare.
Right.
That's
But
hurting that's hurting us too, I'm sure.
But it is being replaced by STEM, which is actually leading to the same thing. Like my son does a lot of 3D printing, does a lot of Tinkercad work, and I turned to him and said, that's construction, man. Like that's the future. What you have to figure out how to do is once you print it, how do you put it together and how does it work? So Mike, how can we lean on something, and this is off the cuff, how can we lean on something like STEM and STEAM to drive all sorts of interest back into the trades? Because it's not shop class, but it is a bridge.
That's true.
Well, you know, so one way we did it in Chicago was we look at maker spaces, right? So maker spaces are for younger kids who want to get out of away from video games, even though they build video games in maker labs, but they embody that. So what did we do? We invited them into our training facility to say, hey, you're having a maker day or a maker fair, and you want to, you know, let us house it for you, let us host it at our training center, and let our apprentices work with your kids on some of the things they're building. Our apprentices have the knowledge around tools and are able to safely work with them. Let them work side by side with your kids. And what we're doing is, we're introducing their families and their parents into what our training center looks like, and the type of community involvement that the trades have, which is huge. Number two, you know, the PR, right? We have to go to these high schools and we have to talk to people about what it is to be in the trades. And like I mentioned a little bit ago, we're very proud of what we do here. We're very proud of what we build, and we're proud to be, Americans and build our infrastructure and our economy. And that's what the trades embody. And you look at kids nowadays, these kids are not afraid to voice their opinion. They're not afraid to fight for what they believe in. They are not afraid to make a statement. They are not afraid to take what's theirs. And that is not much different from a union member. So they are, in fact, they embody what that union spirit's about. You know, they fight for what they believe in, and they believe in brother and sisterhood, and they support each other and they back each other. And that's what it's all about. So I think the first way, the easy, low hanging fruit, there's maker labs all over the country. There's maker spaces all over the country. Find one, talk to them, and see how you can host a maker fair at your facility or partner with them in one of them. And you'll be surprised at the outreach and the outcome you get from the local community.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer.
And you know what, Jeff? I'm sorry. Let me just touch on this too.
Go
It
ahead.
doesn't have to be a training center. It can be a contractor. We have very large contractors in our areas with huge fab shops. Why don't they host a maker fair in their fab shop? I know it's hard to say let's shut down the fab shop for a day to teach kids how to build toolboxes, but hey, those are going to be the future kids that are running that fab shop one day. So it may not be a bad idea to bring them in for it.
I don't want to give away our secrets too much, but I mean, that's the way we grow our VDC department a lot, is we engage with the local high schools that still have CAD programs or those kind of programs, and we get very, I mean, not to Stephan's point, when I go out and speak at job fairs and stuff now, like I'm supposed to speak on technology and I speak on construction more, but we need to get them earlier, even because by the time you see them when they're juniors and seniors, they've kind of, like you said, they've got their paths laid out. But that's one of the things we've done as a contractor that we found to be very beneficial, and not to shit on either of the coast or anything like that. I think that they're, especially in the Midwest, you're going to get some of these families that they've got a different work ethic, they've got a different mindset. They've got different experiences in out here in farmland. We get the farmers and whatnot. So you're going to get a different feel. But
Travis, we know the Midwest is the best. Right? They know it too. They know it too. All right. They know it too. Don't worry about.
We build and feed the country. That's all. Whatever. You guys on the coast, whatever.
We're good at feeding ourselves too.
That's true. We are. Yeah.
Stephan gave us the iPad, but that's fine. Whatever.
While I got the mic for a moment, and I think Jacinda, she submitted a really good question. I haven't wrapped my head around it yet, but I did have a question. We're all very heavily on the mechanical and the MEP side, right? And even Susan there from the IBW. What have you guys had? What sort of involvement have you guys had with other trades, with steel erectors or what have you? I mean, is this spreading through all the trades? We're trying to expand our footprint here. We need some more viewers, guys. We need some than just the mechanical here.
Right.
I mean, one thing that comes to mind is a project I was on 10 years ago. It was a pretty big hospital at 600 beds, and the electricians were using Revit, right? And I was like, holy smokes. And it was kind of new and clunky and, well, newish, new to me anyways. And they were full blown using it in San Francisco, and they had a little core group where they were, working together and building the content for each other. But I'll say we have a pretty good network in the Bay Area of the crafts working together. We have some, social groups and stuff where people lean on each other for help. And once you get into the office, I feel like, or once you get on projects and job sites, the different trades for the most part work together. And, it's kind of like us versus them mentality at that point where you're trying to, get the project done, be profitable. But on the training side, I've just made the conscious decision years ago that I'll never hold anything back because of what I've gotten in return is so much more. So it's like, I've worked with Susan and she's shared things that I've learned from her and she's learned from me. And those are two completely different trades. And I've done that with fire protection. I've done that with, sheet metal and on and on and on. So no one does this alone at the end of the day.
Yeah, to touch on that, like I said, we have Susan here with us, and Susan is, and Josh Bone now is with Electri. I mean, Josh Bone, as we know, is a huge advocate of the mechanical trades, and Josh has been to our training center many times in Chicago, and he's been at almost every UA event I've been at for the last 5 years. So that just shows you that Josh Bone, with the respect that he's had for the mechanical trades, that he's pushing a positive message on the Electri side and the NICA side, and I know guys at the UA level like Ken Schneider, who's our advocate on technology, is doing the same thing for piping. Is that Ken has always been an advocate of that. So, like Stephan said, in the field, we're backing each other all day long. We're there to support each other and make sure we're all safe and watching each other's backs. But we are starting to see, with the amount of trade stacking going on and coordination, I think in the next 3 years, we're going to see major involvement with trades on working together on a technology level. I hope we do.
I think that would have a huge impact on the industry. And I think you're right. The ones you just named, and I think that's why our dork hood has been very much mechanical focused and electrical, because you guys are out on the forefront of it. But I feel like as I come across more trades and I've jumped over to the GC side of the world in my job. And so I'm seeing it from there and they're going to have to come together and they can learn from one another. It's something, Mike, you taught me early on was like, we're a union shop and we're union, but we want to teach everybody. Like we just, Stephan, you said it. I just let go. I've learned over the years that I get far more back. And I hope that those other trades, if they're out there listening and wondering how they can do it, I've been approached by the Carpenters Union before and others. It's like, don't ask me how to do it. Go directly to them and ask them how to do it. And guess what? They're going to tell you. Like we've discussed this. Like it's kind of like a sales funnel from any job. I want to fill the top of the funnel. I don't really care where they pop out. If I'm filling these trades with people and they're popping out as carpenters, they're popping out as plumbers, they're popping out as, steel erectors, that's fine. They're in this industry.
Right.
And
I think we have a hard time getting away from that zero-sum game mindset that I've done this in presentations and speeches I've done before. Like at that point in time, I think that, construction in the US was like a $14 trillion business. That's a big pie. I'm more than happy to share that pie around. Let's try to do it better.
That's what the plan spec world has done to us, Travis, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys before we get too much further. And it's sort of a hard question, but it's one that when I was implementing technology, because I was the person that did that for my business with the guys in the field, one of the things that they really hit back on me was their autonomy to build, like their ability to make building level decisions and to keep that autonomy. And I was accused a lot of sort of creating a brain drain. And in my defense, I have always said that if you don't have skilled labor beneath you, don't expect to be able to do this. This is totally like, we're totally leaning on all of the people that actually know how to build to do the technology part. But for those guys that are pushing back and saying, hey, I feel like I'm losing my autonomy. I feel like I'm not being able to do the work that I signed up to do when I started into this. Do you have anything to say to them that might help them understand? I mean, Mike, you gave a pretty impassioned speech, but Stephan, what would you tell to some of those guys that look at the technology and look at the loss of autonomy and their choices that they used to make. Even their place on the job site has kind of been diminished at times by the technology, or is where they think it is. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I've had tons and tons of conversations about that topic, and over 10 years, going on and on. Almost every project had that issue. And what I would say is find a cheerleader that's gonna not drink the Kool-Aid, but it's gonna be your partner. And then you're gonna give them the opportunity to have influence on the way it's built, leveraging the technology. And then you make them a part of it. And then if that project works well, you'll see that it's going to snowball, and then other people are going to want that. And you're going to there's going to be trust issues, and they're going to want to revert to the way they know how to do it. But you'll see that the project schedules won't allow them to, or your company standards won't allow them to. And they're going to have to utilize a total station. They're going to have to utilize the Tiger Stop. They're going to have to utilize prefabrication on 1/2-inch copper when then they're 100% confident they could do it faster, getting 20-foot sticks out there. And then I'll tell you a quick story. We had a barn burner of a biotech lab years ago, and it was miles of copper, and we had a little bit of time to do it, and they wanted to do it the old way. And we talked him into prefabbing, 3/4-inch copper, inch copper, and it was a very, very condensed schedule. And I got the buy-in. I wasn't 100% sure if he was going to listen, and I called him up a couple of weeks later. But as far as I'm concerned, no news was good news. I texted him, "How's it going?" He sent me a picture of the box of unopened tubing cutters. Right. So what that meant, he 100% installed per the drawing, crushed the job, and wanted more on the next one. So it's a trust. You cannot tell them it's going to be this way or the highway. You got to let them in. And you got to let them focus on other things besides installation. You got to let them focus on manpower, tools, dealing with the day-to-day with the general contractor. I kind of like frame it as, I'm going to let you worry about stuff that's going to be really important to you on this project, and let me worry about this. And then, and get that trust going.
And if I could just touch on that, and I know I'm probably going to get in trouble here, but it's okay, boys, because I love you guys. But I'll apologize in advance. And we talk about getting the field autonomy and getting them more involved, and we want to make sure that they're respected for what they do. And I know we are not here to pitch what we do, and I'm not doing that, but the reason I left my job to come work for this company is because it empowers the field, and it empowers the fab shop to take advantage of the data-rich models that the VDC departments are using. It's giving that ownership back to the field, and it's empowering them. And the field is seeing all of this technology that's taking place in the office, and they're seeing you guys walk out there with iPads and robots and all this stuff, and they want to be a part of it too. This is what enables them to do that. And again, I'm not gonna talk about our product, and that's why I love this podcast, because you guys aren't about that. You don't let people come on here and pitch what they do, because then it just turns into every other podcast out there. But at the end of the day, we have to empower the fab shop in the field, take their knowledge, their expertise, their years of building, and take that somehow into the VDC world, into the office, and work together so we can raise this tide together. We have to involve them. And Jonathan, you bring up a great point that they do question their time. They do question whether or not they're valued, and by us including them and giving them the power of this data, it makes them feel valuable. It really does.
I'm
sorry if you're mad at me for kind of talking about.
No.
I like Stefan's point about the condensed schedules.
I don't think everybody's seeing that yet. I try to tell people, like, it's coming. It's almost here. Like, go look at California. You're not going to have the time you had before, and it's tough to get them to do that. But what you said, Stephan, I will tell you, I can probably, and I'm not going to use all their names because there's too many. I always had mentors that were like field foremen. I was almost 100% trained by the foreman on my jobs. I actually remember one of the dudes calling me up, and he said, "Will you stop leaving things 6 inches long?" He says, "I have a pile of 6-inch pipe beside me with little ends, and they're all exactly 6 inches long. So you obviously know how long this pipe's supposed to be. Just freaking cut the pipe." but there's a bunch of them. And I think what you said really hits it. If the VDC guys go out and pick 3 people that they want as their mentors, and those are the champions, and bring them in. So like, let them take a hand in running VDC a little bit, at least from the information. I think that's right on, or at least
what we did
after you
North.
said that, I'm like, that's what we did.
I agree.
That's what we did at North. Absolutely. I mean,
Great point.
you find that superintendent or that general foreman or even a lower level, like a first line leader foreman, somebody that's going to run with things. And that definitely worked. But I liked Stephan's comment about I wanted to elaborate on the condensed schedule thing, because that's what all of this is allowing to happen. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard this, but being in management, I've had the privilege of hearing, from PMs and stuff when they're talking about, you're going over a job. It's like, why didn't we fab this? Why didn't we do that? Why? It's like, well, the schedule was tight and we didn't have time to get you involved. So we built it in the field. I'm like, you didn't have time, so you didn't fab it. Like, so it's just funny. You got to change that mantra, right? It's hey, I've heard it. I promise you.
Hey, well, I have something I want to challenge Stephan and Mike, because, well, but Mike, by the way, earlier you did a great job of dicing the knife edge. So we that's what we're going to call it from now on. I like that. It's okay, because, people doing what you did, Mike, is actually important, and the ability to go backwards too. Like, you can go from the field to the office, you can go from the field to technology, you can go from technology back to the field. That should be an open gate. We should actually really encourage that. It's everybody getting the ability to do that. But I have a question, because, like, it feels like all of you guys assume that, like, BIM and VDC is the way. And I hate to be the one that always has to say this, but like, Jonathan, I remember at MCAA National, and you walked up to me and said, dude, now I know what you're talking about. And there is a strong contingent still of large contractors that believe this BIM thing's a fad, and they go, meh. And I of course, I've got to stay careful of, hopefully they don't listen in right after I talk to them recently, but I'm saying on a regular basis, I hear that, this BIM thing. And so, Mike, I know you're going to jump on a high horse here. So I just love to do it to you. So I want to hear it. Like, what do you say to them? How do you even, like, have you sat across from anybody recently and had that argument?
Yeah.
Every day. I mean, it's, and here's another, well, let me just start out by saying, here's another great way to advocate using a UA member in a VDC office. We have members in Chicago that will detail a mechanical room and go and build it. Right. So, like, if your VDC department's, slowing down a little bit, and you have an apprentice in the office that's drawing for you, you're mentoring them how to draw. Well, after they draw it, send them out there to go pull on some chain falls and see if their design it holds any water. I guess no pun intended. But you know what, Jeff, brother, all of us here on this call have had those conversations for the last 5 years with people on technology and where it's going, and the people that still look at us today and say, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We've been doing it. Here you go. I'm speaking to a contractor now that's on the west half of the country that's been in operation, continued for 127 years. And they just bought a Tiger Stop, and they just put iPads in the field, and they're looking at technology. They've been 130 years, family-owned, fifth-generation business that is to this day updating technology. So now, somebody that's perfected what they've done for 130 years, why are they adapting to it? But we have contractors that have been in business for 10 years that want nothing to do with it. It's that mindset you have to have. And I know it's scary. I know there's real budgets there, and there's money to be spent. I get it, but you got to understand, it's a very simple sentence. Either keep up or you're going to get left behind. It's that simple. Stephan, I mean, am I wrong? I mean, you've been a mentor of mine since day one, Stephan. And if I'm speaking wrong on what you've taught me in the last 5 years, then put me down. But I mean, these are conversations you and I have had for 5 years, brother.
Yeah. What I think about, Jeff, when you say that really resonates with me. I think about that person who said that to you. They're looking at a line item on a scope. It's like, holy shit,
Yeah,
that cost,
exactly.
that's going to cost my company $250,000, right? And then they're thinking, how do I make that back up on a $5 million job or a $10 million job? And they're
One of the
not
things-
seeing. Hang on, I'll just say that they're not seeing that. Oh, like for instance, if they prefab their hangers, they prefab their pipe, they're going to see 30% reduction in labor. And then, for instance, I did a job one time. We applied that, and we saved $1 million on a $4 million material budget just by using BIM. So I think they're just looking at a line item. They're not looking deeper into it, or they're looking at a disaster project as a complete waste of time.
One of the things I always say when I challenge the line item thing too is, how many times do you go back and recost mistakes you didn't make?
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. When I would get challenged about the HoloLens, we would use the HoloLens very early on, and it was whatever, it was $3,500 to the device. It was another $3,000 for the software. But if I didn't have to move this platform from here to here, it saved me $60,000, right? Nobody goes back and redoes that. And those are the kind of calculations that get missed. So those are the conversations you need to have. And it's really important to kind of talk
Well, you
about.
know what, Travis, you spent $3,000 on a HoloLens. I mean, what would they say to your fab shop if they wanted to buy 10 DeWalt grinders? Nothing. They wouldn't say a word to them.
They wouldn't say a word.
You know, so
Why did you even take the time to ask me?
Yeah,
why are you
exactly.
asking me? Like, really?
Exactly.
Like, go buy 20
We
of
really
them
need
so
to
you don't
change
ask
that
me next year.
conversation, right?
You know?
I just wanted a quick point to Jeff's question too, because I love when Jeff plays the devil's advocate, and I think we've all had that conversation. And I think my most recent rebuttal that I used was, as a contractor and as somebody who looks at this as a future and with skin in the game, it's like no one knows what 50 years from now looks like. No one 50 years ago knew what we would be doing today. And you can put all your PowerPoint presentations up there about how BIM's a fad, it's going away, this is the future. You can do that. And 50 years from now, you could be 100% correct. But there's a lot of money for me to make in the next 20 years, ignoring what's going on right now. So,
Sure,
I can
that's for sure.
I can wait for what I'll never see, or I can join the now, make my money, and worry about because I can't predict the future, and no one on this podcast will be able to. There's no one. 50 years from now, none of us know. So that was one of my favorite rebuttals to it, and it just
to kind of combine the points too, when we talked about Mike with what you're doing now, and not pumping up companies, not pumping up specific companies, but you're going to watch people. You've watched a lot of people like Mike, like Walker Lockard, like man, I'm just spacing right now, like Jonathan, even that go from
James Simpson.
There you go. That go from the contracting side to some technology, right? And I'm not specifically saying we're calling out that specific technology, but the marketplace that technology plays in, those people know what is lacking in our industry. Watch what they're doing. Watch where they're going, because those are the areas that we have gaps in. They're going to places that have solved a need, and that's the need that you need to solve for your own company.
Right. Very well said.
I have a great story. So 4 years ago, I was with Josh Bone and we were talking to a data scientist, and the guy pulls me aside and says, well, all my data shows me that the BIM just isn't working out. It's not good for construction at all. And I was like, okay, so I'm at a contractor that's making far, far more money and getting far, far more jobs because of technology than anything else. We're like blocking out our competition and everything else. Like, what questions are you asking that gave you data that said that BIM wasn't working? And he pulls out this list of questions for a GC, for starters. And I was like, okay, so your data science is based on a bunch of questions that are baloneyous, that like, I've never even heard of some of these things. And I think that's part of where we're getting bad press is people are asking questions that don't make sense if you understand technology. If you're actually doing prefab, it makes sense to you that you measure twice, because you know that even a small deviation is going to cause major problems down the road. But they're going, well, why did you have to buy a Faro scanner or whatever scanner? Sorry, I didn't mean to mention the name, but buy a scanner. See, Mike, I do it too. To do these measurements. And you're like, I know that if I can prefab, I can save this much money. I know if I buy a piece of technology that makes these measurements right, then BIM works. And they're like, well, we didn't ask people that had the right measurements. We asked people that were doing BIM to fulfill a contract, whether it was helpful. And they're like, no, it's not. But you add prefab to that, man, it all starts to make money really, really, really fast. And like you said, Travis, a single mistake. I had a mechanical room that somebody had drawn it in 2D at the wrong scale. They had just drawn it at the wrong scale. The equipment was at the right scale, but the mechanical room was blown up.
Yep. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I was like,
I love that.
Yeah, it's not going to work. So there are those things,
It's part of the whole thing. I mean, and it is part about getting the visibility too. And I think, Stephan, you hit for me what's probably going to be the thing in the end that does push us over the precipice is the condensed schedules you're already seeing in California. Not to mention the difficulty of working in an urban environment as we get tighter and tighter on one another and our cities get fuller. Those sites are harder. The logistics are harder. We can't build. We don't have the space. So.
And by the way, the buildings aren't getting any less complex. And the technology and systems that we're putting in place, right?
Yeah. What we saw in our area was contractors were saying, well, I can build this in 24 months. Another one comes, well, I can do it in 18 months. And then on and on and on. It's just kind of like
so it's not a dollar amount anymore.
Right.
It's just like how quick.
I mentioned that building that I worked on that was 600 hospital beds, and think about they get several $1,000s a night each bed that's used. And when do they like to be open 3 months earlier? Would they pay a premium?
It's a
for
massive
that?
deduct.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. That's the conversation we had with COSA, right, Jeff? I mean, it's not always the dollars. The dollars is a big part, but the sooner we can get a facility up and running where they're making money for the owner. I mean, that's dollars too.
I'm in the biotech capital of
I
mean, I was told 15% of the world's biotech.
And those are businesses that may have a 5-year lifespan. So of course they're in a hurry, right? I mean, yeah.
I was actually just on a building that was weird before I ventured out on my own, where they were using a different type of structure and a different type of slab where they weren't going to allow you to drill your own holes and do anything other than bang it. And they also couldn't support more than 250 pounds per hanger. And they wanted you to demonstrate as a contractor that you were going to stay underneath that in every area. Tell me how someone does that without BIM. How does your company even bid a job like that without BIM? And that's a building style that's coming online. We're building these leaner buildings. You can't do those tricks.
The guy who won that didn't read that spec.
Yeah. This is true.
Oh, maybe.
So he's out there hanging on every hanger, right? Not 250 pounds. Not 250 pounds.
All right. Where can we find an apprentice that weighs 249?
That's a whole new area. But no, I think you're right, Stephan. I think pushing the means and methods forward is going to be the key. And it's maybe it's bidding it down too. Maybe it's getting those owners and Travis, you're right. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, with Pfizer and the others fighting to get a vaccine out. I mean, it was not only about the cash flow, but it was about the country. And it was really about when can you get the damn facility open doing what I needed to do, because that's when I start making my money and start doing it. So, it's I'll get a Nathan. This is another, it's Whiff'em. What's in it for me? But
damn it, there's $1.
I didn't say human API, another $1.
If you're over in China, how fast can you build me a 1,000 bed hospital? You know what I mean?
Right.
That was phenomenal. Let's build a 1,000 bed hospital in a week. That's, if that doesn't prove to you that we can build faster with prefab, I don't know what's gonna break your concentration there.
Us continually beating on you might be the other one. Get a construction dork beat down.
What
and
were we
by the
talking
way,
about before, the sandpaper that just wears everybody down?
Yep. we sandpaper, we wear you down, or I'm not going to name names, or Jeff walks up, grabs Jonathan, and goes, "You need to school this dude," and then walks away and leaves him there with a whiskey. So, not that that's ever happened.
No, that never happened. And he didn't talk to me for a half hour about how BIM guys are horrible people.
Yeah,
well, that's not
by the
our
way,
argument.
If you ever run into me, I'm going to do that to you. So, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Fair warning to anybody that listens. If you find us at an event, we're going to grab you by the shirt collar and put you in a position with somebody else and say, you need to talk.
Yep. Been doing it since we started this career. It's our version.
Our version of Thunderdome.
That should be an episode that we do. We put the people in Thunderdome and let them fight it out. We decide between the four of us, we might need a fifth so that we could have a tiebreaker. Ding, ding, ding.
Right.
What's
or
that
we could
show
use the crowd.
That, pardon the interruption, like Jeff would be the little point guy, like just over there like, doing random.
Oh,
dude, I see an episode, Mike. I see an episode coming up where we can do that. We'll have like a trivia night / like PTI. We'll just ding, 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 ding. We'll steal it.
It's like John 30,
guys,
Travis 20, Trent -10. So
guys, I hate to do this, but we're already at like way past 7 because it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably bring it home. I don't know if anybody has any last thoughts. My last thoughts are I'm going to finish my hot totty. I'm gonna go to sleep. I'll think a lot about all the things you guys have said.
Go put on your Snuggie and go lay down.
How do you know I'm not wearing a Snuggie? I mean, we're all the shoulders up here, people.
No, this.
Hey
is
guys,
all
thanks, Stephan. I'll let you say your piece as well. But thanks, guys, for having us on here. And Stephan and I are talking on the phone once or twice a week, supporting each other, and it's great for us to be here with you guys. And I just hope all you guys are well, and to see you guys in person soon, hopefully.
Yes.
I mean, come on. But thanks again. It's been awesome. Really appreciate it.
For the record, I've been vaccinated, so I'm all
really
good. Yeah, I'm a volunteer fireman, so we got pretty high on the list.
Right on.
Get on the road, Travis. We need you on the road, man. Let's get some content.
Yeah, if you see me with a mask, don't yell at me. Without a mask, sorry. If you see me without a mask, don't yell at me.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. Great chat. Keep it up, guys. Good job. And appreciate everything you guys do. Keep pushing the industry forward and tech forward.
No, thanks to all you guys. And Trent, any last words?
Oh man, no, just thank you both. Both of you guys have been a great resource for me over the years, and the three of us have similar roots. It's been fun watching you guys grow, and hopefully it's been fun to watch me do the same. So pleasure knowing you guys.
We'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, it's been a great show, guys. Thanks for tuning in for the first Construction Dorkcast of 2021. We were excited to start it with these guys, and we're excited for more episodes. So remember to reach out. Tell us what you're up to. Ask us for new topics. We are just excited to have you all. Thanks, and see you later.
Thank you.
Video sentence. Oh, Jesus. So we know what this entire episode's going to be. It's just going to be them slowly changing through.
Do you think anyone will notice? I mean, it looks so natural.
I think you should leave that on, man, the whole time.
It moves around. Look at this. Like
you should do an eye patch and start switching eyes.
Yeah. You know what you should do is turn around halfway through the episode and turn that off, and then just turn back.
I'm gonna see if Jeff says anything. I'm gonna wait for it. Just kind of.
Right on. I don't have the right version installed, so I'm just gonna sit back and relax.
That's why you guys always update your software. You still running on Windows 95?
Always update your software.
I wish I was running on Windows 95. That would be awesome because I loved 95. It was cool.
XP.
It wasn't like
XP was the best.
Yeah, it wasn't all. It didn't put on air.
ME, Windows.
ME was the shit.
I only run ME and Vista. Those are the only two I will run.
I think I'm gonna try to make a VDI and like really bump it up and see what you can do with a virtual core inside Revit. And yes, Mike and Stephan, that's how boring our lives are. We're talking about virtual cores on fucking Revit machines. We have nothing to talk about. But what Steph? I haven't talked.
That's what this podcast's about, though. Is getting to nerd out, right?
My life is the beta test.
Yeah. And you guys do a much better job of politicking it than very, very, very many people out there that are banging the drums.
My God.
Yeah, that's probably like the most underrated skill that you guys have, probably, is because That's the part of it that most of us would never be able to succeed at.
You would have
Well,
loved
and,
me. You would have loved me in my late 20s, in my early 30s. I was that asshole pushing, and then you slowly realize it's easier to get them to be your friends first.
You have to bash your head against the wall a few times, right? Before you really kind of realize that.
Yeah, you get fired a few times. Has to leave.
Has to leave politely. We'd like you to politely be somewhere else. That's
Trent, I really hope you keep that mustache because it's not moving with your mouth real well. As you turn your head back and forth, it kind of sticks to it.
oh, dude.
I'm
Yeah, you
sorry.
got.
I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of the conversation, but I was watching you.
You're mesmerized by the facial hair.
The best is the hand. Wait, hang on.
Nice.
No, nothing, dude. Just can't hear you at all.
I don't hear anything.
I think he's just screwing with us at this point.
Yeah, he's just
He's just messing with us. He's got like a little button on his mic. He's not going to press it.
Oh shit, I'm muted.
Come on, dude. We're going to have to go live here soon. You guys.
Check. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go.
Yeah, we can hear you now. There you go.
Hey, there he is.
There we go.
That's
There
why
we
we come
go.
early, everybody.